The harbor, for me, is really a magical place.
The Inner Harbor is an area of opportunity.
It's the place that attracts people and inspires people to recognize that cities are vibrant places.
The Inner Harbor is, I think, a place where you can see hope.
The Inner Harbor is on an upward trend of becoming healthy again.
The Inner Harbor is surprisingly full of life.
The Inner Harbor is clearly Baltimore's greatest asset.
I think it's a place for exploration. I think it's a starting point towards the rest of the world in some ways.
The Inner Harbor is a sense of possibility.
I think the Inner Harbor is one of Baltimore's real jewels.
We know there have been humans here for thousands of years through archaeology. We know the Piscataway people, among others, regularly were here. Back then, this was really kind of like a backwater swamp. There was no development, obviously. It was very shallow.
What was here, a wetland, is a mosaic of microhabitats.
Maybe the first big transformation of the harbor was from a natural marsh into a maritime port. Second big impact from humans was developing the shores around the harbor into canneries and industrial areas.
You have your economic growth, which also comes with the ecological loss.
When we modified it for shipbuilding and ships to come in, we stripped out that ecological function.
When the Inner Harbor vision started to materialize, the uses changed, but the pollution was still there.
In the mid-1970s, the city fathers started to see a different vision for the Inner Harbor.
Beginning in the later 1970s with the Science Center and then the National Aquarium, we started to build out that vision for turning the harbor from an industrial maritime port into an entertainment area.
When I was mayor, the thing that I was so impressed with is that the board of the aquarium wanted to do more. They didn't want to rest on their laurels. They wanted to bring additional attractions. So I was very excited. Unlike my predecessor, Mayor Schaefer, I had no plans to jump into the aquarium.
I do remember the first time visiting Inner Harbor as a child. It was kind of a little bit more gritty, and I can say that the water was probably not nearly as clean as it is nowadays.
We talk a lot about aquatic treasures here at the National Aquarium. There is one aquatic treasure that is also priceless that we don't talk about as much as we probably should. And that's Jack Cover.
You really can't kind of put everything about Jack Cover into a nice little package.
He's a legend. Yeah.
The way I explain Jack to other colleagues or to family members and friends, oh gosh, that's a hard one.
He has explored every creek that ever was in Maryland.
I want to say he's that uncle that you look forward to having a drink with or having a conversation with, but also going to for advice when you really need some advice on how to do something right.
He has so much knowledge and he is just so willing to share it and really wants to share it.
So my name is Jack Cover, and I'm a general curator here at the National Aquarium. I've been here since 1987. Lived in Baltimore. I was born in September 23rd, 1956, and basically grew up in a row house in Hamden, living in the city, but still there's Wyman Park. There's all these places you can go, and you can find snakes and salamanders and frogs and all these things. At a very, very young age, probably 5 or 6, a neighbor who was a school bus driver basically had a boy get on the bus with a live snake to terrorize the girls, of course. It was a northern ringneck snake, which is about yay big, and he thought that me and my older brother should have this snake, and for some reason my mother went along with it. So he knocked on the door, gave us the snake, and I still remember vividly, even at this age, the snake in a jar on the kitchen table. And I just remember just sitting there looking at the tongue going in and out, the coloration, the scales, and thinking, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I mean, I just could not believe this animal, and it really piqued my interest in reptiles and amphibians. Luckily, my family started to vacation down on the eastern shore on Kent Island. That's where I kind of started to learn about the Chesapeake Bay and the life that lived there. I went to Poly High, so it wasn't about being an engineer or anything. It was like, let's go to this school because they have a herpetology club. This is me with my spectacle caiman that I bought in a local department store here in the Baltimore area. They all had pet departments. This little caiman was 6 inches. It grew up to over 5 feet long. Through my time at Towson University, my college years, I did work in a venom lab. They were building the National Aquarium, was trying to get a job here, didn't have any experience, so I went to Fort Worth, Texas to a herpetarium there, worked there for 5 years before coming to the aquarium. Something that attracted me to the aquarium and something that a lot of our visitors, sometimes it's obvious to them, sometimes it's less subtle, but we really build high quality replications of habitat here. And that was something that drew me to the National Aquarium.
The greatest aquariums in our country and really in the world go way beyond their walls in terms of their impact.
The work we do outside the aquarium always had to focus on partners who had a stream in their backyard to clean up or a wetland that had to be restored.
It only made sense that the National Aquarium should be deeply engaged in conservation of the Chesapeake and, of course, from there far beyond.
For a long time, the harbor was just ignored.
We didn't have a place to restore because we're like in Baltimore Harbor.
It's a working harbor. There's a lot of hardened edges, but you would never receive a permit to get rid of a pier to replace it with a living shoreline.
Could we maybe think about wetlands in a different way?
The whole effort to step outside the building and put a floating wetland in was something that began way back in 2010.
Floating wetlands was not a very well-known technology to use.
We were introduced to floating wetlands by a company that sold floating wetlands, typically for stormwater retention ponds.
They really had not been installed in brackish water.
But they'd never been put in open systems before. They've always been put in these stagnant ponds.
All along, I basically was sitting back and saying, yep, this is something we want to do. I had that passion that's what used to be here before European settlement, before the city was built. That was the habitat.
The first one that went in, I mean, they were purchased off the shelf.
Typical floating wetlands are made of this material that's kind of like a big plastic Brillo pad, PET plastic.
It was a Brillo pad, to make it as simple as possible, that would float at the surface of the water, and then we would plant it.
All the buoyancy is determined in the beginning by marine foam that's put in. It's like the life preserver that keeps it floating.
I think it was 7 pieces that were kind of put together and held together by an all-thread. The first one was installed with a huge crane with a lot of people looking over. It was a big production and it was really fantastic.
One of the challenges that we had to overcome was the fact that a typical floating wetland, and one put in brackish water, there's a lot of biomass, there's things growing.
And immediately it was obvious that from a wildlife perspective, it was working.
The first one lasted for about 3 years before every wildlife kind of just was drawn to it, and it couldn't sustain the amount of life that was needed in the harbor.
So the typical floating wetland, just when it's really performing well, it sinks.
So then we shifted to something that perhaps we can make our own. There's a lot of do-it-yourself floating wetlands out there. Those are really great for people who live on the waterfront, For the inner harbor, it's a very harsh environment.
They're like a waterbed when a wave hits it. They basically flop around and they break apart.
Very early on with the movement of the water, eventually, and the way it was anchored, it kind of got all pulled apart. So that was lesson one, perhaps make it one piece. The lessons learned through this process were really, it nailed down to two major things. So the function of a natural wetland, is it functioning like a natural wetland? There were ways to enhance that.
What we had to do was figure out how to incorporate the multiple microhabitats in this to really have the maximum return of species.
And then the other part was the structure itself. It had to be durable. So those were the two big buckets that we kind of filed our lessons learned in.
And so the concepts were there. It was just like, what can we do that's going to be, again, durable and basically affordable, and you know, it's going to work as something of interest to people in the inner harbor.
It was our only chance to really reintroduce that natural habitat that was once in the harbor without it requiring massive construction. So that was kind of our first introduction to our harbor projects.
Many people have said there's no such thing as innovation and creativity without failure. We went through that cycle, and each time we failed, we found a better way forward.
So in 2017, we built a prototype with all the things that we needed to correct from the conventional, typical floating wetland design.
So that was when I sat down, Jack and I sat down, and I told him every problem that I had with the floating wetland design.
The process of building a prototype is something we've always done with any exhibit we're doing.
There were moments when we were developing the prototypes that things got a little frustrating.
We're going to throw everything at it. So we're going to use this prototype to test everything that we want to.
What are the unknowns? And we really need to get a handle on making sure that what we're going to try is going to work.
We agreed on a design.
We went to an abandoned water taxi dock and said, let's try this small prototype wetland just to really make sure it's going to be durable, that animals are actually going to come to it and utilize it.
So the size of our prototype was determined by the width of these pilings that were already in existence.
We also needed to make these things durable. We couldn't invest a lot of money and have this thing fall apart in 2 or 3 years.
Anytime you're working in a brackish or saltwater environment, you need 3/16 stainless steel.
The metal has to be the highest grade stainless steel, 3/16 grade stainless steel.
And I bet you Jack mentioned that in his interview 100,000 times.
Wood and other materials that can break down over time have to be avoided. So it's done very intelligently with really exotic materials.
Those materials alone are instantly colonized by bacteria and biofilms, and everything starts to live on it.
The biggest difference between the floating wetland prototype that we designed and launched versus anything that we did off the shelf earlier is the dynamic buoyancy.
So that was the kind of aha moment.
That allows us to control where the system sits in the water column, so where the habitat sits.
We also needed to work on water movement.
The area that this technology is in the harbor, it's around 30 feet deep.
And we don't have a lot of flow in that particular slip area.
And we wanted aeration, we wanted a shallow channel.
And that shallow water is so critical to habitats that are very traditional to the Chesapeake Bay.
So we had to have shallow water for the small fishes to get away from the big fishes.
The elevation of the different layers of the floating wetland are important because, one, you have different types of species that can grow. If you go out to any type of wetland marsh in the Chesapeake Bay in our area on the eastern shore, you're going to see grass.
The roots of these plants are taking up nitrogen and phosphorus and putting it into the plant growth itself.
Because they're not planted in soil with a floating wetland, they have direct contact with the water, and the roots will uptake a lot of that excess nutrients.
And this is where this floating wetland that we have made is maybe more efficient in removing excess nutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, from the water than a natural tidal marsh.
And once it was planted, we lowered it to the elevation we wanted and never looked back. You can do as much scientific research as you want.
We build these things, we mimic what's happening in the tidal salt marsh, but that doesn't mean anybody's going to be on board as far as wildlife to utilize this.
The wildlife showed up immediately.
So many fish are coming into that shallow water area. It's a brand new habitat that has been completely lost from the Baltimore Harbor.
So within 48 hours, we had blue crabs coming up and molting.
Lots of night heron fishing.
Seeing the animals so quickly colonize this thing definitely was like we're going in the right direction, we're doing something right.
But it really was just the response from our visitors who would ask about it, it would bring them joy to see something, thriving and beautiful.
We had signage out to help people stay informed about what we were doing out there.
Everything on paper or images, it's all theoretical. But to see it there, to see the grass, to see the animals, to see the thing working, to hear the history, it really helped when it came to convincing people that this was a good idea.
I think we always realized there was a really wonderful opportunity here, and it was worth taking the chance that it will be successful.
We took a quantum leap on the design of floating wetlands. To be really effective, we have to scale this up.
So in 2017, we launched the prototype. In 2019, it was still thriving, and they're already talking about scaling it up.
First, I was terrified, partly because I felt like I didn't know enough about what we wanted to do with the project.
What drove the are we going to be able to do it was funding and also permitting.
Permitting process went kind of, a little wonky because they'd never heard of it before.
Floating wetland technology was not something that is in their language. This is a new design, a new technology. They're not used to this kind of application.
But the one thing I really found that the prototype was extremely valuable for was convincing people that this was a good idea.
But we were able to kind of have the stars align and make it happen.
But once that was ready, obviously COVID hit. In many ways, COVID was a little beneficial to us with the project timeline because it enabled us more time to collect baseline data for our evaluation later on, but also more time to raise some funding.
When we scaled it up, we had all these reality checks we had to deal with.
You're going from one module, which was our floating wetland prototype in 2017, to 105 modules linked together.
Where's it going to be built? It would be a lot cheaper to fit on a normal tractor trailer rather than a wide tractor trailer. Where are we going to get the materials? What's going to be cost efficient? Who's going to assemble it? And then you have to put pilings that are supporting this floating wetland in precise places. This has got to be done exactly the way we need it.
But the building of it itself, the materials, that went up really quick.
That all amazed me, and that was, again, a crew of people that their expertise is years and years working out in the environment, building piers, building structures underwater.
It only took a few months to complete that. And it was really amazing to see your vision come together over that short time.
So you're building all these parts in the design, and they all have to fit like a puzzle.
After we linked all of the modules together for the larger project, we realized that there's, something we didn't visualize was the gap in between the two modules. There's a gap that is about the size of someone's foot. And we're like, well, that's probably not going to be good. So we had to go out and get some webbing, and we installed flexible webbing over all the seams.
The big moment of truth came when we started planting the grass.
The planting week was a very fast week. It feels like it went by so quick.
We're gonna have an upland grass, a lowland grass, and then we're gonna sprinkle in some shrubs.
And we're a small but mighty team, but we need hundreds of volunteers for these projects.
The planting week, I can tell you, was a tough week.
We were able to have over 300 volunteers join us out there.
One of the things that stuck out to me the most was the amount of people that just said thank you to us.
Experience is what counts, and you have a very rich life when you're a part of, particularly a part of healing. You're healing this impaired environment. What can make you feel better?
So the idea was we would plant it in a matter of 5 days and then immediately lower harbor wetland to the desired depth. Unfortunately, there were things that were preventing us from doing that. There was still connecting aeration and pipes and problem solving. We knew early on that it might be out of the water for a while, and those plants, and this is May, would just cook in the Baltimore sun.
And of course, we had to have a drought summer when we planted this.
So Jack, who started a compost pile, my guess is sometime in the 70s, said, I know what we're gonna do.
But we gotta find some other material to kind of wick that water up to the roots of these plants, let them send their roots down and get established.
We first started using heat moss, but it was so expensive.
Where can we find a free source of compost? And suddenly, like a light bulb goes off my head. Well, how about the corner of your yard? Well, there's the place we can get free compost, my yard. So we just basically started to sending crews out with 5-gallon buckets and filling them up with compost and using that to plug the holes.
By the time the project was over, I don't even think a dent was made to his pile. It probably saved us hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And it felt like a lot of what we were doing throughout this was sort of exploring new partnerships together and sort of growing relationships.
That's one reason I really like this project, since it seems like I'm working with a bunch of people that they're not just complaining about things from the sideline, they're living by example, building something that will change, I think, how people in downtown areas address environmental concerns.
We really found a great partner in Nether.
I'm a hazer, not a blender. I use paint sprayers and spray paint for just about everything. That's what I'm most interested in art, is how paint travels through the air.
Music is waves of sound moving through the air, the same as bird calls move through the air and fish move through the water.
We added a soundscape that was developed with local sound artists.
It's music that takes live water quality data that is sampled really close to where the listener is standing, right as they hear the music.
It's going to sound different day to day, it's going to sound different month to month, season to season.
And so that's always changing.
It will be a new experience every day.
And then just all the surprises that happened as we were building it.
We hadn't even finished planting the wetland. A nesting pair of mallards made a nest, and I thought that was just amazing that the wetland wasn't even complete, and they were already like, yeah, we're gonna move in now.
Something we found this morning, this is a hatchling diamondback terrapin. So this is our state reptile, and hatchling turtles are very vulnerable, so it's basically looking for marsh grass habitat to hide in. Didn't expect to see this as soon, but we're very, very pleased. We'll probably hold this guy off to the side until we're finished construction, and then we'll put him back.
Oh gosh, the geese.
We had to also look at some animals like kind of the geese, which may totally wipe out the grasses.
I always say they're not our target species. As cute as those goslings look, they can be incredibly destructive.
We have a fence that kind of keeps them out.
I think Jack gets like a little twitch, and he's like, oh, they're out there, I can feel it.
So these are the young of the year Atlantic silversides. They're just going through, probably feeding on little copepods and all sorts of really small valley prey that's being generated from this floating wetland.
With the building of harbor wetland, what types of animals are going to come back? And it's such a difficult question to answer because you have no idea. So in the back of our minds, yeah, absolutely, river otters. But would that happen? Absolutely not. Like, you know, maybe the end of my career we'll start to see that.
I was actually doing my regular rounds, and I was walking across the bridge, and I saw something moving, and I was like, okay, that looks weird. I didn't even know what they were when I was recording them initially. When I reached for my phone, I thought it was just to be something cute to show my 4-year-old granddaughter. So that's really, it was right there. So I said, let me record it off of that. I didn't even think about how important that was. That means, you know, that this project's actually working.
Urban river otters, who would have ever thought?
A lot of the public believed that we were populating the habitat with animals. They didn't understand that these were animals that naturally live, and they sought out the habitat to utilize.
River otters were here before European settlement. They're still here. Let's do what we can to make sure they're here in the future.
We opened during a tropical storm where the gangways were actually elevated to get onto harbor wetland, so some major flooding.
Here it is. You are actually giving people more than they expect. I mean, we have a free endeavor that you all had the vision to do, and it's an incredible thing.
3, 2, 1.
So rewarding to see your vision work.
Pinch yourself. This is working.
Very oftentimes they'll ask me what I'm doing. Am I looking for fish? And I'm like, nope, I'm looking for trash. I see a lot of single-use snack plastic bags, like chip bags and things. A lot of tobacco products, a lot of straws. In urban areas, there's always going to be pollution like trash, so that's one of our priorities, is just cleaning up the habitat. We are never going to win the battle against trash, but we sure are going to do our best. This is otter scat. So we are working with researchers at the Smithsonian Environmental Research Center, collecting samples when the otter does come and visit, and they'll take those samples and analyze them to see what the otters are eating.
Walking through that channel and just seeing schools of small fishes, mummichugs, different killifish, silversides, that's exactly what I saw in those tidal marshes and still see off of Kent Island. It's just intriguing to me that even in this very modified environment, that some animals find a way to make it home and to thrive. I just wish I could communicate with this animal. I want to ask, where did your mother lay the eggs that you hatched from? You're healthy looking. You look like a terrapin I would get from the most pristine part of the bay. What are you eating? How are you using this impaired environment? This guy we found early spring is a hatchling, and we wanted to do a little grow out and head starting on him. Got some size on him to make him less vulnerable to predators like great blue heron and things like that. But he will now have plenty of time to acclimate and go on from here. A lot of people would say the inner harbor and these very urbanized habitats are not worth any effort to fix. They're hopeless. We are saying no, they are not hopeless, that we look at it as just a challenge. There is a notion, again, that sometimes people have in their heads. If you live in the city, you want to see animals, you want to see wildlife, get in your car, go out to the nearest state park, go out into the woods. The animals are here. Why not look at them within walking distance in the city? Why not sit down and enjoy seeing, you know, migratory birds coming in, blue crabs, jellyfish, all these different animals. They're here. Seeing it all come together and Luckily, the plan worked because there's so many unknowns and things out of your control. Very, very fulfilling for a kid that grew up in a row house in Hamden. I just had that connection to the Eastern Shore, to the water, and to be able to bring that to my city, I can't tell you anything more fulfilling. Building Harbor Wetland wasn't an end, it's just the beginning.
We feel like this could be Baltimore's second harbor renaissance.
I see now is the renaissance needs to happen in the water.
This is a first in the world.
Because we were the first to do this in this way, other cities have taken notice.
Several cities have called in and asked us to tell them how we did what we did here.
I hope that people follow our lead.
I really hope that we will inspire other cities to do the same thing.
Knowing that harbor wetland works and that our model can be implemented in other cities.
There's so many benefits that things like this can bring to urban areas. It's boundless.
Yeah, after being at the aquarium for 37 years, I finally decided it was really time to retire, but I can tell you it's hard to let go.
I know he's retired now, which is really weird to say.
I know for a fact that he is not sitting at home twiddling his thumbs during his retirement.
He's doing the same thing that he was doing here.
It's definitely not a swan song to me because I basically have a need. I don't know, maybe it's an addiction to just looking at animals and doing things to help animals. I have just got so much fulfillment out of that. I don't know what my life would be without it.
On the books, I will say that he remains with us every Wednesday as a volunteer. However, he has started showing up other days.
I look at retirement as an opportunity to focus really on this constructed habitat.
And continues to be that mentor and expert that we have always known him to be.
Until I can't do it anymore, I intend to keep my foot into it. I guess I struggle with why isn't everyone like me? Just obsessed, just fascinated. You can't get enough of this stuff. I had a life where I was out in boats, I was out on the water, and I had that foundation. And I really want people in this region to understand that Chesapeake Bay is a very special place. We are not separate from nature. We are a part of it. And as long as we take care of it, it will take care of us.